Let's make a simple drawing template. To get started, we'll go pick up our default drawing and find the A landscape. The nice thing about B is if you have a large format printer, it gives you a little more room and it doesn't shrink it that much, but typically you're going to have more along the lines of 8.5 by 11, so I'm trying to modify this a little bit so title block's not taking up all of the room. So we'll come over to the sheet format. If that's not available or turned on, right click, come to the tabs. This is everything that's available for the drawing. We edit the sheet format. Have to decide what I'm gonna keep and use. If it's a company, education, whatever project, you might want to keep the proprietary and confidential. Basically says I own this. This is kind of like a trademark or copyright. And we haven't really used anything for the application, so I'll take that out of the way. Moving over, and this might be a good place to see if I can find a filter. Yep, don't see anything that's just lines, so I'm going to go ahead and pull the dimensions. I do want to keep those items. If we're doing dimensioning and tolerancing, ANSI or ASME Y14.5, 2009, 2018. If you're not really using that, I don't know, it's almost kind of understood, so we do want to keep these guys. I'm just window picking around them so I can move them as a group. Not really looking at all of the approvals. If we do comments, we'll probably do them as a note. And so I'm just going through, and actually I wanted that one for the date. I'll grab those three, but we got a few extra there, so let's see if I can grab one of those. And the downside is that since they're empty, they're not going to be as visible. Okay, so this one's set as the sheet description, and descriptions are okay, but I'd rather have the file name and then the drawing name. So these two are actually pretty usable. The A size. Got the letter, so Control Z. Make sure I'm getting the letter, the lines. Nothing in Rev. So might just leave the scale, the weight. And weight is handy because you look at the print and you're not really comprehending or maybe realizing how big or small the part is. The weight will usually give you, oh, this thing's only half a pound, or this thing's 1,000 pounds, and there's quite a bit of difference. All right, so I'm just going to bring this line up. We'll set this as my divider to the work area. And if I go to the additional parameters, we're at about 1.25. I think I'm going to need a little bit more than that, so maybe 1.5. And one of the places that I do like to use fixed is with the drawing template. We could put a dimension on those, but then the dimension has to be hidden. There's quite a few things that can go on there. So if I just fix it, I know that I fixed the item, and we'll bring the drawn by. Title is a little bit big. Until I have something to connect that to, I'm going to bring that down to a 16. And instead of, if we do part or assembly, And I try to build these to where they will work with the part or the assembly. There's not anything so specific that there has to be a separate separate file for it. Let's check the justification. So I want it left justified so that it doesn't go off of the sheet. And then the drawing name I'll kind of tuck in here. And if I stay consistent, then I'm just going to rename this to drawing. That works a little better. Alright, and then same thing, we'll put this in 16. Get an idea of the height. Another double click, make sure it's justified to the left, and place it. Alright, so the material property, we'll give it some room. I kind of like the open format. Drawing the lines and having those compartments is certainly fine. But I think it, again, for preferences, the company organization is going to have to sit down and decide what they like for their build. So fractional tolerance, maybe plus or minus a 32nd. For angular machine, plus or minus 1 degree. And if we need the symbols, we'll come over here to, it's kind of the center line symbol they're showing, but we hover over these, we'll see the degree. A sheet metal bend, well, we'll designate those as with the sheet metal part. So, and actually we need a 4th decimal place. So still just kind of maneuvering these in, adjusting them as we go. So 2 decimal place, again, preference probably plus or minus 15 thousandths. And then, well, the problem with the 2 decimal place at 15 thousandths though is it's outside of the range. So maybe 10 thousandths, or we'd go up to 20 thousandths. So I really want the tolerance to be in 2 decimal places to go with my 2 decimal places dimension. For a standard 3-place decimal, plus or minus half a thou. Make sure I'm getting all caps here. 4-place decimal. And actually I can just copy this. I could go back over to the symbols and grab that. Half a thou would be a decent tolerance if I'm feeling more generous, or I know that it's not critical, or if it's something that's really critical, I'm going to apply a dimension specifically to that geometry. Might go to a 1,000th, but I think that gives us a good range and a good starting point. And this is why we want to use those 4 decimal places sparingly. We want to make sure that we really need those, because that increases the level of machining, level of accuracy, the requirements of the equipment and the people to do it. And we'll open that up a little bit. Again, I like the left justify. If we're going to put comments, I'd probably put the comments kind of in here. So, problem with having the rev and the sheet size too close together is they end up being a little bit confusing that they're that close to each other. So I'm going to add a note, and I'll put the comment back in our comments. And that probably needs to be, I was going to do a Control A, but see if we can get all of those. Control A, no. Well, let's go to a 10 point. Did not adjust. Not sure what, there it goes. And so So maybe down to an 8 point for the comments. Have a little area to put in notes. So if I go ahead and accept the sheet format, that looks pretty good. The one issue would be that I haven't tied any of these back. If I want it to pull up the file name, then I have to put that in. So we have the drawn. Let's I know that one was, let's edit the sheet format again. I'm going to add one more. Actually, I'll copy it so it picks up the fonts. Control C, Control V, and we'll make this one a date. And then I'll need another note here for the date, and I'll put in. I like to have the default, but let's just go ahead and leave that as a blank. All right, so that cleans it up a little bit, gives me a lot more work area, and I need a part. So if I go back to one of my previous items, let's just grab the screw because we can use that as an angle. And if you're going to consistently use configurations, or your company uses configurations, then you're going to want to consider under the file properties making a lot of these items specific to the configuration. If it's custom, it's kind of a global property. It'll be applied to all of the configurations. So maybe something like a I'm trying to think what would be in here. The date, start date, or company name. Well, let's jump over to configuration and see what pops up. So the description was in there. Standard. Through. If I have a part number, I'll put in the default kind of. So we'll have 3 letters to go with our 3 numbers. And then if I go to the revision, and that was revision A as a starting point. Material was not specified, but if I add the material to the group, then that will come over and we'll actually be picking up the SolidWorks reference back to the material. And a finish. So maybe we have a raw stock, or an anodize, a paint, a powder coat. All right, so just to add a few, I'm going to leave the drawn by for the title block. So that gives me enough to start with, and I want to copy these over. So if I highlight, Control C, and go over to the adjustment screw, then I can bring those into the adjustment screw as well. And then once I got out of it, I'll go back into the file properties. So this is the pivot. And if I come over to the adjustment, so if we did a separation like a created by, maybe that would go over into the global. Alright, so I'm going to save this, come back over to my part, and under the view palette, we have the part open, and I'm just going to bring one of these in. And this is my template, so I don't want to leave this in. I'm not going to do any detailing or anything specific. If we go through and we have to add those, and this is kind of the drawback of doing everything through the file properties. If I notice that the description came in and the drawing is showing up, but I don't have the part part name specifically, the material and raw is showing up, and then I need to actually activate for the rev since it's not in there. So if I highlight, and then we come over to link to property, so that middle button, model found here, selected component or other drawing view. I think it's the drawing view and sheet properties. Let's see what we get here. So there's my revision. Alright, if those don't show up, then I didn't get a proper link. Then we can go ahead and hit OK. And then I'm just going to delete that out because I want to be consistent across all of those parts. Editing the sheet format one more time, I need to see where the drawn came in. Oh, there was the date box. So I added another one, so don't really need. See if I can find it. Well, don't really need that one. We'll get that a little bit closer and double click, make sure the justification is left. Actually would like to check the justification on that one as well since I'm here. What was the font? 13, that's a little bit large. Maybe a 10 point. And same here, maybe a 10 point. I think I'm having a pause. There we go. Oh, that one went to 7. Wow. Okay, we'll make that one a little bit bigger. Alright, so back in our sheet format, if we go to title block fields, the part and assembly is showing up, but I only want to pick the items in this area. And we'll give it a little more room. So it didn't find the doesn't automatically find all of the boxes. So that's my drawn by, and then this will be the date. Okay, so what that will hopefully do is I'll be able to click in that area, and then I can type in my name, type in my initials, come over, type in the date, and accept it, and that'll be an interactive portion as opposed to everything coming over manually. The other one I might want to do, and we have to be in the edit sheet format, is the title block field, and if we wanted to do comments, oh, I didn't put a note in, so I'm not sure what that one was. It doesn't have anything attached to it, so let's go ahead and bring that back down, and that will be for the comment. I do want to shrink it down from 19 though, maybe another 8-point comment, and then another title block field. So it doesn't look like I'm going to get to add a second one. Company name, no, let's just make that a comment. Alright, so at some point we'd want to put a logo in. And let's see if we can highlight. So it does, even though was kind of limited over here, it is picking up there. So I think that title block is just showing where we can pick. So I don't want to get too much in there, mainly because, well, actually it should only allow for the things that I've set. So if I pick the entire title block, and we get out of that, title block highlights, those are the items that we can edit manually. Alright, so at this point we need to save the sheet format. And I'm going to put this in my personal Dropbox folder, so I can use this on more than one, computer. My landscape. And then one of the things that I would want for the for the properties is that any additional sheets will also pick up the MyAland and apply changes. I don't think there was any specific notes. And then I'm just going to save the sheet format one more time. I haven't ever really, this is one of those, you do this about once a year or every couple of years, and it's a relearning curve. So I haven't ever really gotten or found a detailed, this is the logic of how all of these items work together. So now I'm going to save this as a drawing template so that it will show up in my group. And then this is, it retained the, the file name that I used as my basis. And we save it. And crop views, any other views. Alright, so now the test. Let everything save. Go ahead and close that out. And if I come back over to where I saved it, MyAland, I can have selected the document. Really just want to check. So I can put in my initials, come over, put in a date. I probably need to work on those fonts a little bit, which would be the same thing. We would save the sheet format and make sure it updates with the title block. Oh, that's an interesting font. And it's also center justified. So, okay, so a couple of corrections to make, but that gives me a good start on a relatively simple but a lot of information in our title block.